Hallelujah, בתקע שופר, Hallelujah, נבל וכינור. Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah.
Very cool.
I
It
love
worked.
that.
It works really well.
Oh, you blew my mind.
It's amazing. And in proper Hebrew too. It always helps.
Mandy, I don't think I know who you are. I'm Sandy Greenberg.
Sandy, it's lovely to meet you. I work at Hebrew Senior Life. I'm a chaplain resident, and I
Okay.
particularly focus around LGBT welcome and inclusion. So I was particularly interested in joining tonight for the conversation. And then the music is just bonus.
We had a woman also, I can't think of her name now, but she's in her last year at Harvard Divinity School. And we had such a wonderful discussion. She's gay and she has a partner. And this was the first time, she discussed it with us. It's wonderful. We got to know each other.
Yeah.
Is Rowan, Sandy?
Oh, I thought she was great.
Yeah, Rowan is wonderful. Yeah, she's really great. Rowan is are you in CP with Rowan and Amanda? You're in that same group, right?
Yeah, as is Lior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, right. So I keep on forgetting that this is like the whole the CPE group thing. I get to part of that group as an honorary member of the group for just this weekend, just this,
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah, I guess that is true that it's
service tomorrow, and Lior did the service last night, and Mandy was there last night also, as was Ali
Yes.
and Rabbi Mona. Although Rabbi Mona is not part of the CPE group, is she?
he is.
I have no idea.
Okay, I didn't. So it really is like this is really like CPE Pride Shabbat. It's not.
Yeah. Well, so CPE stands for Clinical Pastoral Education. And so a lot of the chaplains have this as continuing education that we participate in. So that's what we keep meaning when we say CPE, CPE.
May I
But-
ask you a question?
Yeah.
What led you to focus on the on this group?
DBT. So I'm a member of the community myself, so that certainly informs.
Oh, of course.
And then I'm really interested in how people grow and mature spiritually when, especially in my context, I didn't come from an affirming tradition. So I grew up Methodist and Roman Catholic, but neither of those.
Where did you grow up?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Say it again.
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis. Oh,
Yeah. Which was
I-
wonderful in a lot of ways, but I had to do a lot of searching and learning to find really affirming contexts. And so for me, sharing that learning feels very natural and important for my values and what I care about.
I'm 83, and my mother's eldest brother was gay. That my grandfather, for whom I'm named, didn't think that the Tsar's army was such a good place for his son. And so he took him on the Trans-Siberian Railroad to Harbin, Manchuria, where you had a large Jewish community. And my uncle stayed there until 1916, when he came to Seattle. And then he made his way to the promised land, the Bronx, and he had a grocery store, but not in a Jewish neighborhood. And I had his abacus after he died. Now, as a an instrument. It has only historic value. And I donated it to the Jewish Museum, and they used it in an exhibit. But they asked for a picture of him. Now, remember, he was from an Orthodox family in Petrikov, and he posed. He had this picture in front of a fake fireplace in his apartment in the Bronx in a smoking jacket. So he didn't really accept the fact that he was who he was.
How did you come to know that about him?
Oh, when I was 10, my mother told me that he used to like to dress up in women's clothes.
Uh-huh.
And that was most unusual to me. His youngest brother worked for him in the grocery store. Now, you have to remember, this was in the Depression. It was hard to earn a living. And he died at 59, and there was, let's say, squabbles over his estate. I was one of the beneficiaries. And I decided that abacus really wasn't doing me any good. And so I donated it to the Yeshiva University Museum, and they asked for a picture. So I gave them what I had. Just recently that I'm realizing that he didn't accept himself if he was all dressed up in front of a fake fireplace in his apartment in the Bronx. He was gay, of course he was.
And sounds like sort of pushing the limits around gender too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
The whole idea of self-acceptance is a big step.
Yeah. Sandy and I were talking about the McNally movie
Uh-huh.
and how the power of someone.
I told him
Oh, Jim, you are now muted.
I was.
We're losing you, Jim.
It says has started screen sharing.
Yeah.
I chose to leave. I chose to leave.
Sorry about that.
I chose to leave my family in order to.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this trick that I learned that I can keep myself unmuted, and then I hold my space bar and talk. But Dodie came on and started screen sharing, I think by mistake, and so I had to fix that. So I had to let go of my space bar. But Danny and I were saying that the among the remarkable things about Terrence McNally was his capacity just to accept himself and who he was, and that gave him this unbelievable superpower of just being able to write the truth in this. I just found it so inspiring.
Yeah.
His mother couldn't accept that.
No, but
There was an English teacher
the English.
who was very encouraging. And when he got an award, he called her up.
Yep.
You see, one person can make a big difference.
Very big difference.
I definitely took that same sort of takeaway. I wrote down about her because
What a
just being seen, not just, and it sounds like he really felt understood by her.
Absolutely,
supported,
and encouraged. And
He
encouraged.
Yeah.
got me. She got my humor.
I want you to wait with this till 8:15, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Sandy, thank you so much for sharing about your uncle. It was fascinating to hear.
Oh, he was a very interesting man. And the fact is that I didn't find out a lot of this till after I was grown and widowed and went to the Bronx County Courthouse and got all the papers.
Wow. But you got to meet him?
Oh, of course I met him. He was my uncle.
And he said he died at a young age.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my uncle who died. It's actually who died young, but one of them was gay, and really formative for me, having an uncle who was actually in the theater, and that was. But yeah, so it's so important to hear stories of people back in, earlier times who were gay and non-gender conforming, because very often there's this sort of idea that this is something new somehow to humans. There's this, now people are this way, as though there were never gay people or gender non-conforming people, all through history, of course, that happened, but
Right.
just suppressed.
I'm a feminist. And what about the position of women within Judaism? I've been fighting that since I'm a little girl.
Yeah.
We can always count on Sandy to bring up the feminist argument.
Oh, absolutely. We're half the human race.
So important to have that voice always in our ears. All right. So we were supposed to start Havdalah at 8. Is that correct? Are we not expecting people from Saturn to join us, or?
Hey, Judy, who's on? Which Judy is this?
Judy, is this Judy Jacobs?
I'm here.
Yeah, Judy Jacobs from Dinesh. Yeah.
So who knows?
We have people from Saturn and they are named Lior.
Yeah, I think our Saturn people are probably on the beach.
Probably, and I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them. All right, so I have Havdalah stuff, although I'm not sure that I have a lighter or matches handy. Let me see what I can do. Do you have Havdalah stuff, Lior?
Not in the place I can grab fast enough.
So, all right, everyone, talk amongst yourselves.
I'm like, I have a candle and a lighter, but not.
You can do a virtual Havdalah candle.
That we could do that, right? But let me see if I can find our.
Is that a thing? Virtual Havdalah candle?
No.
But everything is virtual, and I love Zoom.
Exactly. I mean, virtual Havdalah is sort of new too.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe it's like you have your fireplace video.
Right. And I'm sure we can find a video of a burning Havdalah can, or I think we can.
We could do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Um,
We can just picture the burning flame in between us.
All right, I've got it.
Yay.
All right. So it's going to be interesting. Okay. To do. All right. So you're going to have to just pretend that you can smell the spices, and you're going to have to pretend that you're going to have a sip of my wine here. Okay. So maybe that one doesn't work so well. There we go. Oh, it's windy in here. Hold on a second.
It's okay. I know. Under pressure, it's really hard.
And I'm not. I usually use matches. I'm not much of a lighter guy. All right. So if you have our red prayer book, Havdalah is on page 283. So there's a series of verses that we read. I'll read them in English and then chant.
I can share. Do you want me to share screen with Havdalah?
Sure, but yeah, that's
Yes, that's much better.
But hang on.
Because this book is very heavy.
Yeah, let me get it up. Hang on.
Look in your book, Judy, page 283, and Lior, if you can share.
I'll find a good version. Hang on.
Well, I'll read the verses ahead of time. Here we go. So behold, God is my deliverer. I am trustful and unafraid. Adonai is my strength, my might, my deliverance. Joyfully draw water from the well springs of deliverance. Deliverance is you. May your blessings rest upon this people forever. Adonai Tzevaot is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold forever. Adonai Tzevaot, happy is the person who trusts in you. Deliver us, Adonai, our sovereign. Answer us when we call. The Jewish people experience light, gladness, joy, and honor. So may it be with us. Okay. הנה ישועתי אבטח ולא אבחר, כי עוזי וזמרת יד אדוני ויהי לי לישועה. ושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה לאדוני היושיע. על עמך ברכתך סלע. אדוני צבאות עמנו משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלע. אדוני צבאות אשר ידם בוטח בך. אדוני יושיע המלך יעננו ביום קורא.
ויודעים את הרוע ושמחה וששון ויקר.
ששון יקר. כן תהילנו. כוס ישועות עשו ושם אדוני. All right. So I'm going to play the guitar and manipulate the. Unfortunately, Moses isn't here, so I can't force him to help me. Okay. So imagine I'm picking up the cup of wine. All right, I picked it up. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen ay la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya ya la 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 ya ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la. All right, everyone, have a sniff of virtual bisamim, of virtual spices, some cloves, some bay leaves. I don't know what else is in here. It's really stinky and smelly and lovely. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei dinei v'samim borei dinei v'samim. La 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 ya 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 la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya 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 la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la. All right, so the tradition is to put up your it's the light in your fingernails. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that all the way from Cambridge and Brookline, from my light here in Brighton, but you might. So give it a go. Oh, look at that. Oh, perfect. Perfect. We can do it just like that. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei beorei ha'esh borei beorei ha'esh la 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 ya ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la. right, so Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol ben Or lechoshech ben Yisrael la'amim ben Yom Hashvi'i l'sheshet Yemei HaMaaseh Baruch Atah Adonai Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol. Baruch Atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, who distinguishes between the sacred and the ordinary, light and darkness, the people Israel and the peoples of the world, and between the seventh day and the 6 days of creation. Baruch Atah Adonai, who distinguishes between the sacred and the everyday. Okay. So there's a song I like to sing, which is on page 284. It's called Hamavdil ben Kodesh. It goes like this. Well, I'll sing it. I'll say the words and then I'll sing it in Hebrew. May the one who separates the holy and the everyday forgive any sins and slights. May our families and our fortunes be as many as the grains of the sand or the stars in the sky at night. This day has disappeared like the palm tree shadow. I call to God, who has brought an end to the light that lit my way today. Today, the watchman announced the coming of the morning and now the night. Avdil ben Kodesh lechol chatotenu hu yimchol zar'enu v'chaspenu yarbe kacho v'chachukavim balayla shavua tov shavua tov Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Shavua tov, Veshua tov. A good avoch. Okay, so let's now we can maybe sing Eliyahu Hanavi and Miriam Hanaviyah.
I'm looking for it, Jim.
Oh, take your time. Take your time. Take your time. There we go.
And together with Miriam and Evia.
Actually, probably Velveteen Rabbi probably has both in the same. Eliyahu Hanavi.
Eliyahu Hatishbid. Eliyahu Hagiladi.
Bimera v'yameinu yavo aleinu im Mashiach ben David Eliyahu Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu Hagiladi Miriam Haniviyah Oz v'zimrat biyada Miriam tirkoditanu lehagdil zimrat olam Miriam tirkoditanu litaken et ha'olam Imera v'yameinu tivien. Is this the same as this one? No, it's different. I apologize. I have a different text somehow. Lior, could you just read from that? Because I can't see that screen.
I think it's pretty much. Miriam Hanevia, Oz vezimra beyada, Miriam tirkod ishtanu letaken et haolam. Bimera v'yamenu Itevienu El Mei HaYeshua El Mei HaYeshua
Miriam. Okay.
Shkoyach.
Chati. All right. So a good
Shavua tov, everybody. Have a good week.
everyone.
How can a week starting like this not be good?
If it starts this way, it can only get better, even better than this.
I'd stop here, Jim.
Jody, are you with us?
Heather.
I am.
Oh, good. Nice to see your name. It would be great to see your face, but we'll take what we can get.
Oh, did you ask me a question?
We would love to see your face.
Ooh, keep that pose. I'm taking a picture of you.
Now, this is really not fair.
Oh,
Someone's
it's a great picture.
taking a picture of me
Right.
while we can't see them.
I know, but you'll see it in the next thing I publish.
And my full UMass regalia.
I can't, there's hardly anything I can see that's live now. And I've taken pictures of staff with all their masks on. So for the next issue, I'm going to have just Zoom pictures.
Nice.
Okay.
That's great. All right, so Mandy, do you want to lead us
Yeah,
a little discussion?
I would love to. Thank you
Good.
all for making time on this night to be together and be in conversation. I see we have Jerry and Sandy and Dodie and Judy, as well as Rabbi Jim and Rabbi Leor and myself. I'm Mandy Rice. I'm a chaplain resident here at HSL. And it is my joy to get to be in conversation, especially around LGBT topics. And so when we found out that this film was going to be showing and easy to watch, we thought we would make this time to be in conversation with you.
Good.
I would love to just start by hearing everyone's voice. I wonder if you could stop for a second and think of one word that summarizes the film for you, what your experience was like watching this film about Terrence McNally.
Self-acceptance.
Excellent.
Wasn't that more than one word?
Wow.
We'll take it as one.
Well, it's hyphenated.
It's a hyphenated word.
And if you're going to give me grief, I can give you plenty about your writing.
You can model for us, Dodie, how to do the one word response. What would yours be?
Enlightened, probably.
Enlightened.
About him, about the fact that it was so tragic to lose him because of the virus. So many things that I didn't keep up with. And I always admired him as a playwright. So I thought this was a good opportunity to hear more intimate things about him.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that movie this evening was very good.
Yeah. My word would be surprising for similar reasons. I learned so much.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, do you have a word that comes to mind when you thought about watching this movie?
Well, I think my word would be something along the lines of commitment to the arts and transformation of society.
Yeah.
It's not one word. The word is commitment, but it's commitment to those two things.
Yeah. The one word version of that comes to my mind is like vocation, like having work that you do in the world that's so closely tied to what you're meant to do. What about you, Judy? Are you able to chime in a word?
Afraid I've never seen the picture.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Rabbi Leor and Rabbi Jim, any input from you?
I'm not sure what the word is, but the idea behind the word that I would love to find is his just commitment to being a part of the world. So transform life into art. I guess inspiring, I guess is the word.
Yeah, I would love to go more into that. What I think gets at Jerry's point and yours, Jim, and sort of what all we were talking about, I wrote some quotes down from the ways that other people talked about him in the movie. And one that struck me so much was that people see his plays and they want to live more fully, they want to live more truly, they want to live more joyfully.
Exactly.
I was wondering who in the conversation has gotten to see his plays and if that resonates with you, or even just watching the movie, seeing how he, like seeing little clips, that idea of like watching a piece of art and then really wanting to live more boldly in the world because of it.
Yeah, I don't think that I've ever seen any of his plays in the theater, but what I didn't know was that he had written Full Monty, which I remember seeing when in the theater when it came out. So it must be the '90s, I guess, right? And just the sort of vitality of that group of guys. I still remember that. And, yeah.
I saw many of his plays. I love the theater. And in New York, you could see the progression.
See the progression in what way?
Oh, because there was a time if someone was gay, that was kept very secret. You know, Stonewall, they rioted, and that's 50 years ago.
Yep, it's a long time. I'm as old as Stonewall.
Just a youngster.
Exactly. I'm a young man.
But so did you see that some of that evolution through his plays?
Of course.
Yeah.
He came right at the beginning. He was who he was, and he had a lot of guts to be able to do that.
Yeah, I found so powerful his description of his first two relationships that he talked about with Edward Albee and then with Bobby Rivas, that they were completely in love with him, but they didn't know him publicly. And,
Right.
oh, that it just broke. It just took my heart and squeezed it. That he wanted to be known and loved everywhere, not just behind closed doors, you know, and he was willing to love that way. And you know, I just wanted it to be, you know, for a guy at that point in our history.
But he loved his partners, but he had tremendous disdain for their feelings about coming out as who they were. And that's a dichotomy I don't really understand, because he was a very honest man, honest with himself. And he was so unhappy with the dishonesty of his partners and friends.
Right.
Now, towards the end of his life, his mother comes to see him, and she's not willing, still at the end, to accept who he is. And that's very hurtful.
Well, I got the sense, and I would love to get everyone else's, because I was a little puzzled by this. His brother said that when she would visit him in New York, she would be the leader of the party, right? And the last thing that she goes to is that panel discussion about, you know, being a gay playwright, you know, and where he meets his husband, and but that when he was back home in Texas, she didn't want him out and about because, you know, her friends would find out that he was gay. So it was almost like this, she became two people. Like in New York, she was one mother, right? The accepting, proud mother of a world famous playwright. But in Corpus Christi, right? She was this, she was back to this, this 50s housewife type of person who can't acknowledge who her son is.
I
Yeah.
Well, her visits to New York allowed her to come out of her closet.
I was just gonna say one of the older gay men in my life uses the phrase that like when kids come out of the closet, the entire rest of the family sort of goes in the closet about that because they have to have their own process around what do I disclose and to whom, and like getting their own comfort up just about being family members. So it's kind of powerful to hear the people on this call talk about your LGBT family members and just like be plain about that as part of your life and part of the community that you love, because that's not a given.
Rabbi Jim, I'm going to call you just a housewife. Those are fighting words.
Oh,
I won't let you get away with that. I've been a housewife who raised 5 children, and I dare you to do that.
I meant, I apologize.
No explanations. It was a put down.
We apologize. I was using that as a rhetorical trope, right? And which I realized I should have prepared a trigger warning for it. That her sort of role in and among her friends in Texas was of that, right?
Like trying to fit into those expectations.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. And I've been in that position professionally as well. I won't let anybody get away with that.
Definitely should not. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. I also want to thank you. That's
very important.
Eye-opening the way you worded that. Thank you.
Yeah. For me too.
Well, of course, I don't want to go off on another tangent about it, but it just seems that in a different way, that I don't take any offense over that, because I think it's a proud occupation and something that should be respected for what it is. It's a beautiful way of working one's life, in one's life.
But it isn't respected in many ways in terms of Judaism. Absolutely not.
Well, I mean, actually, it's interesting. I think it's a very complicated topic, right? Because there's a way in which Judaism, the tradition, is very wants to make a big deal of honoring the Eshet Chayil, right, the woman of valor, who does all the things that a balabusta is supposed to do. Right, and of course, there's also this relentless patriarchy that gets played out in all kinds of different ways. But yeah, and I think the other reason why this sort of term housewife is so is such a heated topic, right, is because it's very much linked to this notion, in the period when Terrence McNally was growing up, right? There was this sort of idea, right, that the woman should be home and the man is out in white middle class families, right? Which is also sort of an artifact of that time, right? It's just a couple of years before that, right? Women were working in all kinds of jobs, right? Because of the war, and then in the 50s, that all changed. So
the men came back from the service, and the women stepped back.
Right.
Religiously.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. To get back to Terrence McNally, I would love to hear.
It's interesting because I was sort of noticing the gender dynamics and the racial dynamics in thinking about the kinds of stories that he was writing and just noticing how white all of the stories were, and how much he was really almost exclusively working with white actors and European American characters. And so to me, that struck me, to only write those stories over such a prolific career. I guess Ragtime is sort of the exception to that, but
that was based on someone else's novel, right?
E.L. Doctorow's novel.
It wasn't
A nice Jewish boy from the Bronx.
Nice Jewish boy, absolutely. But and that also, I mean, I think that was the other that recently I've been reading articles about people of color who are LGBT, and especially the T part, right? And trans women of color, and how dangerous their lives are, and how difficult it is to find acceptance. And the reality is, right, that sort of gay 1970s efflorescence, that was a very white experience. That was where my uncle was in the 1970s. He was a theater person out in New York, and that world was almost exclusively a white upper middle class world. And so the stories of black and brown people were not, they weren't the stories that I don't think Terrence McNally would have been able to tell those stories. They weren't.
Yeah, and he might not even have known enough about that version of the world to write those stories. It was interesting. Billy Porter is the name of the sort of quite effeminate gay man, for lack of better language, black man, who said, like, everything that we do is built on Terrence McNally's shoulders.
Really?
Yeah. And he's in a really brilliant television show called Pose that really focuses on the late 80s and early 90s ballroom culture in New York, and the transgender women and gay men drag queens who performed and did drag in New York at that time. So Billy Porter, who's saying everything we do is on Terrence McNally's shoulders, is looking back at him and seeing, like, he may have had limitations, but also his visionary way of being able to bring what he brought functioned to open the doors. And I really heard that pattern of him consistently trying to bring up other people, encourage them. Somebody said that he really made them feel like a peer. And I just saw that trend of being supported kind of in the way the English teacher supported him. Somebody mentioned that at the very beginning.
Right.
I think it's such a powerful point, right? That everyone comes into the world with their own perspective. They can't have the perspective of another person. And so what Sandy said before, it's about self-acceptance, right? So Terrence McNally just completely accepted himself, and that allowed him in so many ways to not only to accept other people who were different than he was, but also to be a kind of a role model for people who were different, and to accept themselves, right? So you don't need to be something. You don't need to try to be something you're not. Actually, that probably is in some ways quite both self-defeating and limiting to other people. Be your own self, right, and encourage other people to be them, right.
And Jerry, it seemed like you were getting to that a bit. Just when you were talking about that, what came to you was really about his role using the arts to make a difference publicly. I wonder if there was a part of the movie that really stuck out for you in that way.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share about it?
Well, I don't know that much about it, but it just seemed to me that was an overriding factor of the movie, that he had this drive and commitment to the arts, which he had a strong passion to. And then he also had a strong passion to kind of change, transform the society in which we lived. But those were the things that stuck out in my mind as I watched the movie.
Do other people have a similar response?
I had a point. He had one partner and he paid his tuition when he went to Columbia. So he didn't only talk, he helped him.
Mm-hmm. Right. So providing that like very concrete material support as well as emotional encouragement. And then so he's making these contributions in his personal life, in the way that he's moving, and then in the kinds of stories he's creating, the plays that he's developing, sort of have that same, like, growth is the word that's coming to my mind, like this spirit of development, of trying to create new possibilities everywhere that he's going.
Yeah, the scene that really got me was that was the story of and now I can't remember the name of the play, but it was the one with Nathan Lane, and they actually played a pretty extended excerpt of the stage play, where he said, "Oh, I feel like your character needs something in the third act, whatever," right? And he's like, I think it's fine, and he says, how did he put it? Like, not everyone has a happy ending or something like this. And then he goes on this extended riff about how even non-happy endings are happy endings, right? Because real life is transformed into art, and it becomes something bigger. It becomes something more meaningful. It helps give a shape and a meaning and a sort of a sense of how the world, how the world is not just a slog, it's more than just a boring way of being in the world. So, yeah, like I want the
Jim, would you repeat that in just a sec?
Yeah, I said he wants the version of something happens on the way to the forum where nothing happens on the way to the forum.
Like wants even like more visceral,
Right.
disturbing, like to cover that ground too.
Well, I mean, because I think that for McNally, that was what art did. Art was something that transformed life into, we talk in our profession, right? We talk about meaning, we talk about belonging, we talk about these very these very sort of what's the word, slippery concepts, right? But the theater makes those things really, really tangible,
because you watch actual people living those possibilities out on stage.
Yeah.
Right, it's like actually creating that for people to inhabit, the good and the really bad.
That gets to that quotation that you brought, right, which is that people leave his plays and they want to live more fully, they want to live more joyfully, they want to live more meaningful lives because they have encountered his art. It's like that. I mean, that's that's just amazing.
I I would like to talk a little bit about were you going to say something, Lior?
I'm just gonna say goodnight. I have to sign off. I have to get the kids to bed.
All right.
Shavua
Sweet
tov.
dreams.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I should have asked her to wait 1 second so I could take a picture, but
Aw.
I just did it.
Okay. I wanted to talk real quickly about the Mothers and Sons play that he wrote, because it sounded like it was really, that's the one where he took his family story and sort of dramatized it and brought in his mother as a character, and sort of through the characters tried to work out what the possibilities might have been for being more deeply understood and more fully accepted. And does anyone remember what he said the effect was of having that play up on Broadway?
It was amazing.
Say it again. I didn't hear that.
The question is if you remember when he talked about the play Mothers and Sons, that was more autobiographical, what impact it had on him to see that film. My words are all disappearing at the end of the night, but to see the play acted live, what that one meant to him. Jim, it sounds like you remembered something from that.
Yeah, I just don't want to monopolize. Sandy, do you remember anything about that? No.
Oh, you're muted right now, I believe, or I can't hear you.
Okay, tell me if that was near the end, because about the last 20 minutes I had a phone call and I never saw the last 20 minutes, so that's why I'm in the dark.
Okay, it was quite near the end, so I'm sorry that you missed it. It is available to watch online for free if people have that capability, and you don't need to even make a password to see it. But
Sandy, do you remember that piece?
No, not really.
What I remember about it was that it was the first time he really enjoyed his own work. And
that's great.
I can only imagine like this sort of feeling like, after so many years of helping other people feel visible in the theater, finally he really felt visible. And I remember he said, right, that when he saw the billboard with Tyne Daly and whoever the other actor was, he's like, "That's me." Like,
Right.
like now I'm a playwright. At the very end of his life, he got to that point where, like, oh, now I'm a playwright. Before,
Right. He had so many ups and downs.
a lot of, well, I mean, who doesn't have ups and downs, right? I mean, I think this is one of the things I loved about this movie was, like, this is a guy who has had, the kind of success that most people can only dream of, right? But it's very clear, like, it's, his path has not been easy.
So whose is?
Nobody's, I think, is the point. No one gets a free pass.
no, and yet those times when you make peace with yourself the most, that's the thing that can smooth the way. That was sort of what I took from that. Dodie, were you trying to say something? Or Judy? I'm listening.
This is Dodie. Did you say, is it Judy's going to speak? I'm sorry.
Judy, you want to say something?
Not really. I'd like to see the picture, though.
Oh, it's a great picture. I hope you can see it.
Yeah.
When things are arranged that way. Dodie, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. I wanted to point out something about his craft. I think that I was surprised to see how almost anal retentive he is about his work, and that everything, every period, every comma, he knew punctuation. Yeah, I know what a comma is. I know what an exclamation is, and that I don't like actors who put in ohs and ums and little things like that. Now, that's another school of thought, because there are most playwrights that I am familiar with, and the contemporary ones especially, and enjoy being able to have the actors and actresses bring something to their parts. And I've never heard anyone so precise. I'm sure that there have been, maybe Shakespeare was that way too, but it revealed a great deal about him, and possibly good and bad about him, because someone who is that controlling, who knows what the kind of partner he was in life too. You know, there's so many sides of a character like him that we really don't see.
Yeah. I was really struck, Dodie, by exactly the same thing you were struck by. And at the same time, what seemed to be the case, right, is that he would write these plays and then he would bring them to the actors and the directors, and then he would be constantly rewriting throughout the entire course of the rehearsals. And that the story that really stuck with me was that story about the actress. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. Christine. I wasn't familiar with her, so her name didn't like stick in my head, like Edie Falco. But she said, there was, for the first time in my career, I spoke up, right?
Right. She play one of the masterclass
The lips,
one of Callus's parts.
I forget, but anyway, but she spoke up, and he said, "Oh, yeah, thank you." And then the next day, the entire play was transformed. So I think that it's there's a mix here between that kind of control you're talking about, and also sort of a deep commitment to collaboration.
Right.
They stand kind of not completely stable with one another.
Well, didn't you find his reformation, so to speak, from sobriety, from drunkenness to sobriety, a little strange? I felt it was that he had not been able to, he could write magnificently and was frightened about being sober and writing, but that he did not have any confidence in himself about giving up drinking. And when Lauren Bacall chastised him so greatly, it was extremely hurtful. And yet the soft-spokenness of Angela Lansbury made an impression with him. And I thought, well, that's another aspect of his character that has just come out very strongly about the type of person that he is.
Right. That if you lead with fire and brimstone, he is going to just reject you and feel ashamed, and you're not going to make any headway. But if you come at him like Angela Lansbury did,
yeah,
it was almost like he saw her as a sister or a mother. It was
the mother he never had. I don't know.
Although I got the sense that there was real affection between him and his mother.
I think he was. Yeah, I think so. And I think that she was proud of him in her own way. But how can you live all your life in a community like she did, and be so avant-garde about your son? She'd be ostracized. She was smart enough to be able to work it out, but she wasn't clever enough to carry it through to give her son the confirmation that he needed.
That makes me think of a story that I read about a Black lesbian elder. And what she was saying is that in her community growing up, like, all the lesbians got married to men and just had relationships with women on the side. And that was very tacitly understood in her context. And just like the attitude was sort of like, we've got enough going against us already. Like, our community, we can handle knowing that women like other women and just like living both ways, the pragmatic way of conforming just so you can get by, and also having space for living outside of that.
I don't think that's confined to the Black community.
Certainly not, but that's the place that I heard it. Ruby Sales is who said that to me, who wrote that I read, and she said it's sort of the most definitively. But I think generationally, that has been really important, even if it's not emphasized or foregrounded now.
Well, right now there's such an emphasis on integration of self, right? That, you know, leading a double life is no longer or valorized in the way that, you know, it used to be. There were no other choices. If you had to live a double life. But now no one thinks it's okay to live a double life, which I'm, and again, I don't know, is that right? Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever it is what it is. But yeah, that's very interesting.
I like the idea that he was so open and accepting of Wendy Wasserstein, and that she played such an important and emotional, loving relationship in his life.
Right.
I loved that, and I wonder, like why people don't talk about him in terms of being bisexual, because he has had these multiply gendered, loving, important, significant relationships.
Right. I mean, it is interesting because he's so identified as gay, right? And there wasn't any talk in the movie, right, about other relationships with women. So, who knows? But
yeah, but we don't know if they were not. They could be genuine friendships and not sexual. I mean, he may not betrayed
brother that they were, shall we say, more than friends. Not a phrase I love, but
that must have been near the end. I didn't hear that.
Could be, because I did definitely get that sense that it was as central, including sexual intimacy, as
absolutely
other relationships had been.
Yeah, and I mean, it reminds me of people that I've known who say, like, I don't fall in love with someone's sex. I fall in love with the person, and it doesn't really matter, they're men or they're women. It doesn't matter. I fall in love with them, and
well, then two bisexuals must have an awfully difficult time because.
But when he does choose to marry, it's a man.
That's right. He marries a man. There's no question that his dominant mode, right, is as a gay man.
Right.
But people I think are endlessly adaptable, and he really loved Wendy Wasserstein.
Yeah.
In a way that I think was quite profound, and maybe was for him. Maybe it was the only woman he ever felt that kind of connection with. I mean, who knows?
Right.
Again, someone said, there's so many parts of a person's life that we will never know,
right.
No matter how public they were.
I feel like that's a good note to end on, just as we talked about the power of self-disclosure and of being known in the world, but also with public figures like this, always knowing that there is more that isn't disclosed, and that's also part of what they are in the world.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lovely evening.
Yeah, and thank you. I want to thank Mandy for I think a great job of facilitating, and thanks to all of you for contributing to a great conversation.
Very good. Good night now.
Thank you all. Sweet dreams. Judy, I hope you get to see it, and Rabbi Jim might be able to help you with the logistics of that.
See what I can do. Exactly.
Mandy,
Yeah.
could I see you once more? And wait, I'm trying to get back into my photography mode here and take your picture.
Sure.
Would you talk so I could see you talking?
Yes. Let's see if it goes to me now. Why?
Well, no, I still.
Okay, here I am.
There you go. There you go. There you
So
go.
yes, I will talk.
Okay, that's great. Just a minute. One more. Okay.
Talk more? Okay, keep going.
But I don't. Could you tell me why you are so individually interested in? Did I miss something in the beginning?
I gave a brief introduction earlier, but I also am part of the LGBT community. So my own religious formation and sort of finding an accepting religious home, but also sort of making peace internally with my religious life gave me a lot of knowledge and skills that then are important to how I work as a chaplain in the world.
Well, you were a great facilitator. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. It was fun. Can we do something like this again?
I would love that.
Right, I would too.
Rabbi Jim is giving 2 thumbs up. Yeah, I love facilitating conversations. Actually, I proposed a short video and potential conversation to Rabbi Jim. So keep paying attention to the news he puts out, and there will be more things.
I will. Okay.
forthcoming.
Thank you. It was very nice meeting you.
Lovely to meet you too. And Jerry came to a conversation before, so I hope that I'll continue to see you.
Well, yeah, I just couldn't comb my hair fast this evening. Okay, thank you very much.
Good night, sweet dreams.
Bye.
No hair to comb. I never look bad. I look good. You know, it's the same. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, Rabbi Jim. Good night.